CTV News at 5 with Hudson Mack.
Nanaimo First Nation Chief Douglas White joins us now live in our Nanaimo newsroom with more. Chief White, thank you for being with us. This letter came yesterday on what was a great day for your people with the return of some traditional lands. It must have been a particular slap in the face by its timing.
It was horrible timing. It was really a horrible irony for the Nanaimo First Nation to be celebrating such a historic day in a moment we've been working towards for a couple of years now that was premised on the very idea of reconciliation, this idea of recognition and respect of our respective cultures, and for this story to come out in the way that it did, this letter from the editor in the Nanaimo Daily News to be on that morning. When I read it that morning, my heart sank. Chief
White, you're a practicing lawyer. At what point does something like this cross the line from freedom of speech to hate speech?
Well, it's a very good question, and it's a question I've put to specialized legal counsel. I know that when I read it, I had a visceral reaction. As you played, it felt like a punch to the stomach, and it caused great concern for me. It certainly seemed to cross an important line. And right now we're continuing to consider what legal options are, and we're having legal counsel that work in this area to take a look and to give us advice.
Does this reflect the reality of race relations in the Nanaimo area?
I don't think so. I think it's really unfortunate in that respect, but it does, it's the view of one person. What's troubling is that the Nanaimo Daily News decided to publish the story. I think that they need to be held responsible for that decision. But I don't think it really reflects the general tone and the nature. I think we've made a lot of progress as a society over the last number of generations. We certainly feel that way at Nanaimo. The city of Nanaimo is full of incredible people that do not in any way share the sentiment that's been expressed in this letter. And I think that's why it's important for us to stand together in the way that we did today, with the Mayor of Nanaimo and myself and citizens of Canada, Aboriginal, non-Aboriginal alike, standing together to express outrage and condemnation today at the Nanaimo Daily News office.
We'll leave it at that. Nanaimo Chief Doug White, thank you for being with us tonight.
Thanks very much, Hudson.
Thank you. Well, there is concern tonight about the impact of a new federal law on First Nations people. BC's Deputy Provincial Health Minister says it's going to put more of them in prison and will have an adverse effect on First Nations health in this country. He says the Safe Streets and Communities Act is a step backwards because it expands mandatory minimum sentences and shifts the focus of sentencing away from rehabilitation to deterrence, effectively eliminating the requirement to consider the unique circumstance of Aboriginal offenders. The report makes 9 recommendations, including either revoking the law or making major changes to recognize the context of Aboriginal people in Canada.
When they provide data and reflect that back to make a contribution to the policy and political discussions in this country, they need to be listened to. First Nations are not talked about in this bill, and yet look at the severe impacts.
The report also says the act will increase the likelihood of young offenders going to jail. It says overall Aboriginal people, particularly youth and those in government care, are a vulnerable population that will be disproportionately affected by the new federal act. Suicide is a fact of life and a fact of death on First Nations reserves on the island and elsewhere. You'll recall the state of emergency that was declared by the Cowichan tribes. Now a member of the Sartlip First Nation is making strides to try to bring awareness to suicide prevention, and will make more than 500 kilometers of those strides. Kelly Paul is committing to run a total of 535 kilometers across Vancouver Island, and on that run she plans to visit First Nations communities and schools where she will share her story and her reasons for running. She says her community and her family have been deeply affected by suicide.
Our community has been hit quite a bit. Personally, yes, it has affected. I lost a brother about 4 years ago. And so this is something that was really hard for us to go through and hard for our community. And so, again, it's just really sincere and dear to my heart. And I know a lot of our communities have gone through that as well. So it's just trying to give a way for healing to our communities.
Paul starts her run on May 17th in Fort Rupert near Port Hardy and will make her way down to the Sartlip First Nation on the Saanich Peninsula. She hopes to raise money to build a new gym at the Lawelnu Tribal School in Saanich and expand its community centre. To find out more, you can visit her website. The BC Civil Liberties Association says it's also going to be closely monitoring a Vancouver Police Department review of an incident in which a police officer was videotaped punching a handcuffed man. The man had been pulled over on his bike for going through a red light. The cyclist says he was punched in the mouth while he was in handcuffs after challenging the 2 officers over the need to give him a ticket.
I was speaking to them the same way I'm speaking to you. Might have used some words I wouldn't use on TV, but it was in a completely civil manner.
The Vancouver Police Department says it has referred the incident to its professional standards section and will submit the case to the Police Complaints Commissioner. The Civil Liberties Association says given the poor history of police departments in this province reviewing cases of alleged misconduct, it will keep a close eye on the file. Well, the 2013 Ford Men's World Curling Championship is about to get underway at the Save on Foods Memorial Centre in Victoria. The best curlers in the world are either already here or are on their way, and we'll get some practice in tomorrow before it all starts this weekend. CTV's Myra Lawrence is live at the arena with a preview.
Well, that's right, Hudson. Now that he's touched down in Victoria, the wait is over for Brad Jacobs and his Sault Ste. Marie-based rink. Now they have to deal with the weight of a nation. It's the first time in his curling career that he will be wearing the maple leaf and representing Canada. Of course, with that comes pressure, but the 27-year-old says it's nothing he can't handle.
If you start thinking about results and thinking about how many people are going to be watching and stuff this week, you're probably going to do poorly. So we really just need to, stay in the present and go out and try to curl our best. It's great to finally be here. Everything has seemed like a big blur from the moment we arrived at the Briar till now, and it's just, but we wouldn't trade it for the world. This is what we've always wanted as kids, so it feels amazing.
And the first time to catch Canada in action will be on Saturday at 2 p.m. They face China in their opening draw. Here's something interesting, Hudson. It's a bit of a family affair, this Jacobs rink. The Harnden brothers, Ryan and EJ, are brothers and cousins, first cousins to the skip Brad Jacobs. Their third, Ryan Fry, is no relation, but he is a full-time curler and a legitimate threat every time he steps on the pebbled ice. We are in for some serious good curling this weekend. The world will be here. Everyone will be watching, and we're going to talk to one of the co-chairs, Chris Atchison, coming up a little later on in sports.
All right, it's exciting, Thank you.
You're welcome.
We'll see you in a while.
You bet.
BC Transit and its union have hit another bump in the road. The union is furious after learning that Transit is testing the waters servicing the cruise ship industry. Transit has put forward a proposal that would service Ogden Point, shuttling cruise ship passengers into the city. Transit says it would have no impact on its overall service because only 6 buses would be involved out of a fleet of 1,000 vehicles. And it would happen during the summer months, traditionally a slower time for BC Transit. But the union says it wasn't consulted and it doesn't like the deal, saying Transit should deal instead with more pressing issues such as pass-ups and overcrowding.
We have concerns that there's not enough buses to currently provide the service that's needed, as well as who will be operating these buses. Once again, BC Transit has told us that they're just supplying the buses, not the operators, and that's CAW 333 work.
Transit says many communities scale back during the summer months, leaving resources underutilized, and instead of parking the buses, it makes sense to try to make money with them. Transit also says any revenue collected would be shared with local government partners to reduce the overall burden on taxpayers. The contract is expected to be awarded by the Greater Victoria Harbour Authority next week. The Cowichan Valley Regional District is now asking the provincial health officer to quash plans for a contaminated soil dump near Shawnigan Lake. The board wrote to Dr. Perry Kendall asking for his intervention in what it calls an imminent threat to the region's drinking water. The board says the Environment Ministry is intent on issuing a permit to a South Island company that wants to truck the dirt over the Malahat and dump it in the South Cowichan area. The ministry approved a draft permit to do that more than a week ago, saying it will accept public comment for another 2 weeks before it makes a final decision. Well, there were good people, good food, and good times on the menu today at the Our Place Drop-In Centre in Victoria, as the Capital Region's homeless and most vulnerable were treated to an early Easter meal.
Happy Easter!
More than 1,000 people were there following their noses and their stomachs to the 1,000 pounds of turkey, 800 pounds of potatoes, 350 pounds of stuffing, 300 pounds of veggies, and 35 gallons of gravy. Oh yeah, did we mention there were 175 pies and whipped cream for dessert? The celebration was more than about food, though. It's about providing a sense of hope and belonging to people in need.
I think it's awesome.
You know, Easter's a time of new beginnings and hope, and for people that are living in poverty, that sometimes is much needed. And Easter's also a time that's difficult for people that are living in poverty because they don't often have a lot of family that they're close to. There's a real need for help for our neighbors that are struggling. So we try to be there as much as we can whenever we can.
Our Place provides service to people in Greater Victoria who are impoverished, working, the elderly, individuals with mental and physical challenges, and the homeless and people on the street. It needs your help, too. The centre says it's in desperate need of men's clothing right now. Its cupboard is bare. The drop-in center could also use blankets, toiletries, and warm jackets. Well, today is one of the holy days of the Passover holiday, and hundreds of Orthodox Jews gathered at their holiest site, Jerusalem's Wailing Wall, for a ritual dating back 2,500 years. The faithful flocked to the wall to receive a priestly blessing. Also today, the Pope marked an ancient Easter tradition, washing of feet. Pope Francis traveled to a juvenile detention center in Rome where he washed the feet of 12 inmates. The Pope told the teens that Jesus washed the feet of his disciples as a gesture of love and service. The Pope then gave each inmate an Easter egg and told them not to lose hope. Another tradition today, Queen Elizabeth presented money to elderly people at a church service in Oxford, England. The Queen was joined by Prince Philip as she distributed the national coins during the annual Royal Maundy service. The Maundy money was handed out today, held in Oxford for the first time in nearly 400 years. The Royal Maundy is an ancient ceremony. The origin comes from the commandment Christ gave after washing the feet of disciples on the day before Good Friday. 87 men and 87 women were chosen to receive Maundy money from the Queen.
It's not easy. It makes you feel worried, concerned. You obviously want to make the right call.
And there's a new television documentary offering a rare peek into the working life of Prince William. The BBC's Helicopter Rescue is the first program ever to show the Prince working as a search and rescue pilot for Britain's Royal Air Force. The documentary features a rescue where William and his crew save a boy who had fallen into a quarry. William's tour is scheduled to end later this year, coinciding with the arrival of the royal baby. Two things more before we wrap up tonight. Two people to acknowledge, two Vancouver Island achievers. Former BCHL star, former Victoria Grizzlies captain Sean Robertson home for Easter. I had a chance to catch up with him over lunch today. He's now a standout on the ice and on the Dean's List at Mack College near Boston. And we send our congratulations tonight to a former Vancouver Island broadcaster who shared her big news with her viewers this morning. Michaela Pereira is joining CNN as one of the co-hosts of the network's new morning show. Island viewers may remember her as one of the hosts of Check Around. In the 1990s, Michaela has spent nearly the last decade hosting the morning show on KTLA in Los Angeles.